And Chairman Wikler, nice to see you. And your state made a lot of history. I played almost all of the vice president's speech yesterday from Wisconsin. Yeah, I know you were there. I saw you tweeting. What was the energy like? What can you share for people? Help paint the picture.
Yesterday was electric. It felt to everyone in the room like they were there for a moment in history. There were thousands of people. This was, lines blocks long. It was the biggest Democratic campaign event in Wisconsin since 2012. And we saw in that crowd a group of 3,500 messengers who want to go out and repeat what they heard from Vice President Harris to their friends, to their family, to their neighbors, people who are going to sign up for volunteer shifts and knock on doors. And the country saw a Wisconsin crowd on its feet, cheering and roaring for Vice President Harris as she laid out just an absolutely devastating argument against Trump and a vision for the kind of country that we should be. This is now a choice election between the vice president and Democrats and the vision of expanding freedom, from the freedom to make your own decisions about your own body to the freedom to choose your own leaders in a democracy, and opportunity for everybody, against a MAGA Republican Party that is hellbent on Project 2025 and abortion bans and control over people's lives, a dictatorship and giveaways to billionaires. That is now so crystal clear. And you could sort of feel the energy in the room. It was like, as a country, as a party, as a state, we've made a decision and we're not going to go back. There was one line in the vice president's speech where she talked about how Trump represents the past and how we want to go towards the future. And the crowd just started chanting spontaneously, not going back, not going back. And that's what it felt like. It felt like a whoosh as they decided to move forward instead.
It's so interesting you bring up that line because I played a lot of the rally yesterday and broke it down. And I played that and I said, what interesting, they're chanting not going back. And a week before at the RNC, they were chanting, send them back. And it's such a contrast, the cruelty of the GOP on display. Send them back to make America as white as possible, which essentially is short form for let's go backwards to a different time. And we're not going back. What was the crowd like in terms of, it sounded young? I mean, I can't tell the cheers.
Yeah, no, it was young. It was diverse. I mean, it was people of all generations, across the genders and race and ethnicity. It was a group that represented Wisconsin, and it represented the certainly the kind of Milwaukee suburbs. It was in West Allis, but people drove often a very long way. I saw a ton of people from rural Democratic county parties who had driven from more than an hour to be able to go there and be there for this moment in history. And it was a message that we know works everywhere in our state because we have knocked on doors and communicated that message in rural Wisconsin, in small towns, and in suburbs and cities alike. It felt like it met the moment so beautifully. And part of what was so stunning about it is the Republican campaign has been premised on a different moment. Trump accepted the Republican nomination less than 10 miles away and gave this rambling, incoherent mess of an acceptance speech for an hour and a half. But the kind of core theme, it's exactly as you say, they're promoting a campaign based on fear and kind of retreating. And this was about being bold and actually looking to the future to make things better for all. Campaigns that can embody and project hope and an opportunity to change things for the better, they beat campaigns that are based on fear and pulling back. And there was a sense in the room, like, not just we're going to do the work, but also that we're going to win. That is how I feel right now.
I was just texting a friend of mine who's out of the country coming back and goes, oh, what's it like? I'm like, oh, we're going to win. And it was very like, I'm like, and I tell listeners, I'm not telling you it's going to win. Like, we don't have to work as hard as we've ever worked in our lives. We're going to have to work as hard as we have ever worked in our lives. But we were going to do that before, and I wasn't sure we were going to win. Now I really feel good. And look, for other people who are younger or not involved in politics, they couldn't make history with Barack Obama. Now there's another generation has a chance to make history with Kamala Harris, the first female president, bringing us into the first world. In that, so many first world nations had female leaders, and we're supposed to be so advanced, and we're so far behind. What about the sense of history? Do you think that's going to play a role? You've touched on already, but does that excite people? And what can you share with the rank and file Wisconsin Democrat since the people have rallied around Vice President Harris?
Absolutely, it plays a role. Kamala Harris is the daughter of immigrants, of an Indian American immigrant and a Jamaican American immigrant. She is somebody who lived in Wisconsin as a girl. Her parents were at the University of Wisconsin for a couple of years, and she lived not far from where I live right now. And she is really has a story about service to her country. She spent her entire career in public service as a prosecutor, then as a district attorney, then as attorney general, then a United States senator, then a vice president. She's met with 150 world leaders. She is better prepared on the national stage and the international stage than any of the, I guess, Trump, Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, the last four presidents before her had nothing like the level of experience that she has. And it all has prepared her for this moment when the country needs a new leader that can defeat Donald Trump and carry us forward. I think President Biden has been an extraordinary president. I have so profound respect for what he's been able to do amidst enormous adversity and the way he's overcome adversity multiple times in his life. And I also know that he has superb judgment about what is best for the country and puts the country ahead of himself. So his decision to do this, it cannot have been an easy decision at all. But his decision to pass the torch to Kamala Harris, to me, says this is the moment. This is the moment to step forward. And I think there was a shared sense of how we can kind of turn the page, end the MAGA chapter in American politics, and have a new generation of leadership, that someone who can connect with people in every community across this country and whose message is so unifying for this nation after Republican division and attacks and hatefulness. It's just spectacular. And the positive energy, the feeling of like people want to go out and spread the word. It's exactly what we want to see.
I can hear the excitement in your tone, and I can share with you, the listeners, the energy level has been off the charts. I'm chatting with Democratic chair of the state of Wisconsin, one of the most important states in this election. Obviously, I don't say this to bring any damper at all. We're all excited. Are there any Democrats though that were very 100% with Biden now and feel any kind of hesitance or feel like he was forced out? And I only ask that is there any work we need to do to bring more people in, or have you not seen that?
I think a lot of Democrats have had all kinds of feelings about the way things went down over the last few weeks. And I've spoken to several of those folks. And I think that it's important to honor the frustration, especially for people who felt like a kind of an elder was pushed in a way that wasn't super respectful. Somebody who people had an enormous level of faith in and comfort with, and a sense that he's done so much for the country and then was not treated with the respect that he'd earned. And I think affirming the sense of how much we appreciate President Biden and then moving forward to what happens now and what is it that all of us can do now, it gives us a chance to move forward as a party. And I do think Vice President Harris is so good at this, specifically about speaking about President Biden's leadership. And he's, of course, our president right now and is going to be doing really critical things all the way until he passes the torch to Vice President Harris as our next president. All of that work has to continue. And at the same time, we have to build the winning coalition that is going to make sure that Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, like North Carolina, all these states are ready to go blue, not just in the presidential race, but in our Senate races for candidates like Tammy Baldwin, in U.S. House races, like in the first and third congressional districts here, in our state legislative races. There are a ton of chambers that are on the verge of flipping or that we need to protect. Wisconsin has a big bang moment with new maps. All of that energy can flow through this one core message about freedom and opportunity against MAGA extremism and giveaways to billionaires. That core is something that I think can help Democrats win up and down the ballot. And it actually affirms the message that President Biden had been sharing as the presidential candidate, and now that's being lifted up to new heights by Vice President Harris.
I will expect that Vice President Harris will be almost like living in your room. I mean, she's going to be in Wisconsin a lot. We're only about slightly over 100 days till this is over. It's not any longer 100 days to Election Day, November 5th. Early voting is going to begin 40 days out in certain states and 30 days out in others. So we're talking like 2 months. But does the strategy, and this is just a nuts and bolts hardball political analysis, does the strategy to winning Wisconsin change with Biden on the top versus Harris on the top from your point of view?
Well, the core strategy is the same, which is that we have to be communicating about the two different futures that voters are choosing between in every zip code in our state, in rural areas, in small towns and big towns and cities and suburbs. We have to make sure that folks are reaching out through their own social networks and carrying that message. We need to make sure that people are knocking on the doors of their neighbors through our neighborhood action teams all over the state. We need to make sure that our out-of-state volunteers and our in-state volunteers are calling phones of voters. It's both persuasion and turnout. One of the things that's so important about Vice President Harris and her message is that the same message works for persuasion and turnout. And so it's not like you have to hyper micro target, who you're going to talk with about freedom. Freedom is actually a uniting value that
Right.
both turns out are kind of base voters and also persuades people who maybe voted Republican in the past. It's also a message that doesn't require you to believe in government. We make a case that we want government to be on the side of regular folks, and it's an important case. We will not stop making that case. At the same time, there are some voters who think the system's so broken, they just want to be left alone. And for those voters, the message of freedom is also very compelling. They don't want politicians overriding their doctors'
Mhm.
medical decisions. They don't want politicians telling them who they can love and who they can be and what kind of lives they can lead. And so the message of freedom actually carries across the coalition. And it's the opposite of the MAGA message. That Trump's dictatorship on day one is repellent to people who do not want their lives to be consumed by politics.
Yeah, and I played that as I was mentioning, and that part really jumped out about freedom and women want to make the choices about their own health without the government saying what they can and cannot do, which is great. Yeah, her being a former prosecutor adds something. Her being adamantly pro-choice and being a woman helps a lot, a great deal. From your point of view, is there a vice president? You don't have to give me a name, but is there a vice presidential candidate that helps her win in Wisconsin and Michigan? I mean, you guys are in the same area, so I can kind of put you together. Anyone? And does it matter? Or are we too much looking into who the VP is when it's really Harris is going to carry this?
Historically, vice presidential candidates, they can have all kinds of different effects. Obviously, President Biden's vice presidential candidate choice has turned out to be a pivotal thing for American history. Trump's pick seems like a total political disaster. JD
Yeah.
Vance is so not ready for prime time. He's somebody who probably couldn't. His views are not really broadcastable in the United States, so maybe advertisers wouldn't want to be associated with them. Mr. 100% abortion ban, I think, will be a huge problem for Trump. For Kamala Harris in choosing a vice president, I trust her judgment about the combination of somebody who's ready to serve if ever called upon to serve, somebody who'd be a great governing partner, somebody who shares her values and sense of the direction of the country, and someone who will be a great partner on the campaign trail. And she has a lot of great options. I mean, the Democratic Party has a deep bench in this moment, which is also not something you see from the Republican Party in the same way. So I can't wait to find out who it is, but I wouldn't presume to know more than she and her team. They have an amazing group of people over there, and so I think it's just going to be great news when we find out from the vice president who her running mate will be.
And I think we're going to find out by August 7th. It seems like, because that's when I saw Chairman Harrison on MSNBC yesterday. I had Brad Woodhouse on yesterday, who, the chairman said it seems like, I mean, it almost seems 100% clear. I think the Rules Committee are meeting today, so we're going to all find out shortly. The reason I say August 7th, that's the day they're going to have the virtual roll call. People can announce, they can run, they'll announce how they can do it. She could have challenges, but to ensure we're on every ballot and not pushed off like the Republicans want. So in a short time, President Biden's going to make a national address. What do you want to hear? What do you expect he's going to say today?
I'm grateful that he's giving this speech. He's just done something that is such a selfless act of patriotism. It's kind of hard to wrap your mind around. The most powerful person in the world, who, in my view, had a path to remaining the most powerful person for another 4 years, deciding that the stakes were so high that this was the time to withdraw as the nominee and endorse the next leader of the country. It's putting country before self. I imagine he'll share what he was thinking about when he made that decision. I imagine that he will say something about the stakes and about the work yet to be done in his presidency, because there is still a lot of work to be done until January of 2025. So I really look forward to hearing his remarks today. And what's also striking is how much Trump seems to have diminished even just in the last 48 hours, I guess, moving to 72 hours now. Trump doesn't seem to know what to do at this moment. He was still posting on Truth Social angry things about Biden for the next 24 hours after Biden made this decision. He built a whole campaign around the idea that he was Mr. Young and Vital compared to Joe Biden. And now he's facing a candidate who's about 20 years younger and about 50 times as energetic and clear and ready to prosecute the case. So it's such a reminder, I think, this whole thing, how profoundly things can change, how quickly. And I guess I want to land on this note. Right now, it feels like the wind is at our back.
Mm-hmm.
There may be hard times ahead. There may be moments when it seems like, suddenly everything's against us, but draw strength from this moment. When those moments come, remember the hope, the energy that we feel right now, because I believe to my core that if we all do everything we can every step of the way, we're going to win on November 5th, no matter what comes at us. So let's bottle the energy of this moment and then draw from it as we go through. And then we'll have so much to celebrate in just over 100 days.
Certainly. I mean, when you look back just 3.5 weeks ago to what we've been through, first there was the debate, then what was going on internally, then the horrible assassination attempt, then President Biden dropping out, then the rallying around Vice President Harris in ways I could have never predicted in my life, raising over $100 million and $150 million more in PAC pledges. And it's building. You can feel the energy. So last thing, Chairman, what's going to be your focus from now till November 5th? And if people want to get involved and volunteer, where can they go with the Wisconsin Dems?
So in Wisconsin, we've built an organizing machine so that we can take anyone's time and put it to work to generate votes. We run a totally coordinated campaign from state legislative candidates where we finally have fair maps after we struck down the partisan gerrymander Republicans put in place. We have a chance to flip our state assembly, break the supermajority in our state Senate. We have multiple House seats we can flip to Democrats and help win the House majority. Tammy Baldwin's race is absolutely essential to holding the Senate majority, and we might be the tipping point state in the presidential race. So anyone listening who wants to help us win all of those things at once, you can sign up to volunteer at wisdems.org/volunteer. That's WISDEMS.org/volunteer. And if you go to wisdems.org, you can also chip in, become a monthly donor. If you're a Wisconsinite, become a state party member. We would love to have everyone. It's all hands on deck here. And if we win Wisconsin, we win this whole thing.
Wisconsin has been on our mind. We've had so many people. I mean, Congressman Pocan's on every month, but we've had you many times. We had then candidate Protasewicz on, who's now a justice. And we're looking forward to having more people in Wisconsin, other candidates running for Congress in the fall to try to flip and maybe some legislative races, because I forgot it. We covered this in the past. You have brand new maps. So Chairman Wikler, great to see you, my friend. I wish you the best. I look forward to chatting with you probably in a month or two.